Hello and welcome to Lunchtime Politics, reaching live from our global headquarters in the nation's commercial nerve center, Lagos, Nigeria. I'm Jeffrey Uzonga. Let's bring you up to speed with the big happenings in politics and in the polity at midday. Amid heavy security, former Governor of Kaduna State El-Rufai arraigned at the Federal High Court, Abuja, on charges preferred against him by the ICPC. Brent crude trades over $100, WTI below $100 early Tuesday after Monday's dump. PMS price stays high at over 1,300 naira in Lagos. Citizens and businesses lament. Thanks again for joining us on the program where we bring you up to speed with the big happenings in politics and in the polity. But let's get started with what a lot of people are mostly concerned about before getting to politics or legal conversation, and that's the price of PMS. And my producer is going to put up a little slide we did just to show you how the prices has appreciated from March that should be March the 2nd. You know, that incident, invasion or attack on Iran started on February the 28th, the last day of February. So it was a weekend. So we've been seeing the trajectory. So the blue shows how high the price of PMS went by each of these days. That's Monday, Friday, and then just this last Monday. And then the red is showing you how much it closed. So you can see from, say, March the 13th, if I can see this clearly from here, you can see that PMS price on crude, not PMS, I should say, crude oil price has been closing above $100 per barrel. So this is good news as far as FX earning from the federal government is concerned, but it's a very painful experience as far as those of us who buy at pump price, businesses and households are concerned. And that's why Nigeria is expecting the federal government or the state government to take some action, just like their counterparts are taking across the world, for citizens to be able to absorb this shock as soon as possible. So for those of you who like this kind of chart, so that's what it looks like. You can see that intersection. We'll continue to monitor these numbers because whatever affects the price of crude affects every other thing wherever you are in the world, transportation, food, and all of that. So good days for Nigeria as far as earnings FX is concerned, but very terrible times for consumers and those of us who buy at fuel station. Let's talk politics now. The Vice President, Kashim Shettima, says the reforms being undertaken by President Bola Tinubu's administration requires the contributions of more Nigerians for effective implementation. He stated this in Yola during the grand reception of the governor of Adamawa State, Umaru Fintiri, who joined the All Progressives Congress alongside his supporters.
It's my honor to stand here to receive one of the fitted governors, one of the most prepared governors, one governor that when I walk into Adamawa today, into Yola today, the Yola of all is not the one I saw today. The difference is clear. The road networks have changed. I couldn't believe this is the kind of network I will see in Yola. Your Excellency, I'm proud of you. You are too good to be in opposition. You are too good not to be a progressive. Your Excellency, you are welcome back to where you rightly belong.
The coming in of our governor, this governor, into APC, will bring good tidings to the people of Adamawa State. Will bring greater development to the people of Adamawa State. In fact, when we were entering Yola, I looked at the quality of infrastructure. I said, well, this man is eligible to be a member of our party.
I want to assure all that with our coming to APC, the road is no longer bumpy. The road is smooth. Victory is for APC from House of Assembly to Mr. President.
As we arrived in Yola, we are welcome not just by the warmth of his people, but by the evidence of purposeful governance, demonstrated by His Excellency Governor Ahmadu Umaru Fintri. The roads, the public works, the quiet signs of development that greet every visitor testifies to his diligence and commitment. They speak of a leadership that understands that governance is measured in results. For this, Your Excellency, we salute your work ethic, and we look forward to forging a partnership that advances not just Adamawa State, but the entire nation as a whole.
I'm smiling because when you go to political rallies, all kinds of things are said. Glowing eulogies are mentioned. But when politicians are talking, you got to be careful what you're hearing. But it's within their right to say whatever they want to say. But let's talk to you, which is going to be what will segue into our conversation, where the Kaduna State Governor, former Kaduna State Governor Nasir El-Rufai is at the Federal High Court, sitting in the Federal Capital Territory for his arraignment by the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission. El-Rufai is expected to face charges related to alleged corruption and abuse of office. ICPC had filed charges against the former governor, accusing him of financial misconduct during his time in office, while full details of the charges are yet to be made public. Sources indicate that they involve alleged irregularities in contract awards and public funds mismanagement or management, as alleged. Before I arrived at the Federal High Court, Abuja or Kaduna, security operatives had taken over the premises of that particular high court. That should be in Kaduna State. Manning key points and barricades around the Federal High Court to forestall any breakdown of law and order. Supporters and observers gathered outside the premises. Let's also talk to you about, Justice James Omotosho. The Federal High Court has convicted and sentenced the former acting Accountant General of the Federation, Mr. Chukwunyere Nwabuoku, to a 72-year jail term without an option of fine. Delivering the judgment, Justice Omotosho held that the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, had been able to prove the 9-count money laundering charge beyond reasonable doubt. Justice Omotosho convicted Mr. Nwabuoku to 8 years imprisonment on each of the counts, making 72 years, ordered that the count shall run concurrently, describing Ms. Nwabuoku's acts of diverting funds meant for security and defense while he served as Director of Finance and Accounts in the Ministry of Defense as appalling. He commended the EFCC for being detailed in its prosecution. Let me bring in my guest, the Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Mr. Kayode Adeluola. He comes to us virtually. Mr. Adeluola, good to see you, sir.
Good to have you, or shall I say, I'm glad that you're having me today again.
All right, so I know some cases are under adjudication, so we may not be able to speak to the merit of it, but just for the nuances and the optics around it, we're seeing, in fact, as we're coming on air, I saw that there was a correspondent that dropped that the EFCC in this case, as Mr. Malami, the former Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, is raising fresh concerns over what he describes as renewed attempt by the EFCC to take possession of his Maitama home in Abuja. He alleged operatives of the anti-graft agency had arrived at his residence quite early today to enforce a forfeiture and assume control of the property. Well, EFCC says they've confirmed that they actually went there and they're carrying out what they consider lawful acts, lawful court order, and firmly grounded in judicial authority. So there's literally a lot going on. While politics is happening on one hand, the court is busy, the anti-graft agency is busy. So I would just maybe get your sense of what you make of these developments, especially given the fact that the opposition is saying this is witch hunting.
Thank you. First, I need to make it very clear that the authorities, when we say the authorities, we're talking about those who by law have the right or the responsibility to ensure that corruption is tackled in every way possible we're talking about the EFCC, the ICPC, and they have a responsibility to ensure also that they follow the law to the letter. There's no need to rush. There's no need to do things which are underhand. There's no need to do things which will, more than anything else, challenge the rights. SSC says they have a court order, forfeiture order from the courts. It should be very easy for them to flash to the face of the person to whom that order is made, or the receipt of whom it was made. So we shouldn't have any fears about a court order being properly granted by the court rather, and executed as appropriate. So Mr. El-Rufai shouldn't have any fears about whether the court order should be made, should be executed, or for that matter, the Attorney General of the Federation, the former Attorney General of the Federation, Madam SAN, shouldn't have any fears, provided those who have received the court order are able to present it to him, and there should be no argument about that. But sometimes I think those who need to execute these orders are a bit zealous. And so what they do is that they're in a hurry to go and execute them. There's no need to do that, because we have enough cases for them to deal with and to demonstrate to the population that they are abreast of what is going on, and they're going to carry out their orders as and when due.
Problem is always the fact that we hear all these media trials, so much noise, we hear humongous figures, and eventually we don't hear nothing again. So sometimes it looks like it gives credence to people who speculate to the effect that sometimes this thing could be witch hunting. We're not saying it is. I'm talking based on precedent. We want people who have looted our funds, stolen our commonwealth, to be behind bars. If you had the energy to do the time, to do the crime, you should face the time in jail. That is what an average society is expected to have. But I want you to interpret as well, when should we be bring a dichotomy between witch hunting and proper fight against anti-corruption, and your assessment of it? Because I remember Muhammadu Buhari, God rest his soul, when he became president, a couple of persons, NSA, former NSA, Mr. Dasuki then, and a couple of other persons, they were arraigned. Some of them even ended up in jail. Now that he's left office, God rest his soul, is no longer in the world, his own men are now being arraigned, from Emefiele to Malami to a couple of other persons who may have served in his government. So I can extrapolate that when Bola Tinubu does his term, whether it's 1 or 2 terms, his own men too will be in jail by the person who is succeeding him at the end of the day, because it was an APC government and another APC, succeeding another APC government. So how do we really separate between witch hunting and real fight against corruption?
Now, let's agree on one thing. If you have committed a crime, no matter the political party you belong to now or in the past, you should face the law. Now, let me remind you, many, many years ago when we were much younger, 1975, 76, when the government of General Yakubu Gowon was ousted, there were 12 governors at the time. And they were taken before those who investigated them. And let me remind you, at the time, what happened? Audu Bako, who was then the military governor of Lagos State, I think he was found to have had a large agricultural firm. He wasn't really accused of embezzlement of public funds or any such thing. The late Brigadier Mobolaji Johnson was cleared of all corrupt charges. I think also that also applied to Brigadier General Oluwole Rotimi of the Western States. So when people look at you, shake you up and down from top to bottom, and they don't find anything, they won't charge you for any crime. So it is irrelevant, in my opinion, his aides will be charged. If they don't find anything wrong that they have done, they cannot bring accusations. They can level accusations against them, and they can't take them to court. But what we find is, it would seem to me, from what you have just described, that this criminality straddles all parties. If you bring any person from any political party to get today, you'll find one thing or the other that is wrong that they have. And by the way, crime, particularly corruption, is not limited to the federal government alone. The Constitution allows state governments also to investigate corruption and the local governments. But we have seemed to focus our attention on the federal government alone. And so we talk about the Mayfair, we talk about the Attorney General, we talk about people in NIMASA, we talk about people in the NPA. But there are people in state governments who are taking our money, our common patrimony, on a daily basis. You will also recall that once upon a time we had in JAM people who were in charge there and who simply said, well, they didn't even have enough subvention from government. And then somebody else came in, Professor Lady, and was able not only to run JAM, but also to send some excess to the federal government. So that's not about politics. It's not about the political party they belong to. It's about people who are in positions of responsibility and whether they will act properly or not. And by the way, we talk about government, we talk about corruption in government, in corporate entities as well. You'd be amazed at what happens in banks and other social and also corporate entities. So corruption should not be our modus operandi, should not be what will almost become our cultural tradition. And honestly, if we want to go to the very basics, I think a lot of people who are in government and a lot of people who perpetrate corruption have just simply not been well brought up. You will find people who, I mean, for example, we have the ministers like the late Professor Lekwera. So even as a minister, he still drove his golf. There were not people who went there into government to amass wealth. But the order of the day now, whether we are in one political party or not, I don't want to mention political parties, you find that people just simply go there to take what they do not have a right to. And it affects our society, it affects our common patrimony, it affects our democracy, it makes people demoralized and unnecessarily so. But as a people, we have a responsibility. Our responsibility is to challenge those who do these things wherever we find them, whether in the local government, in the state government. I'll give you an example. We have the Senate, the female senator, Senator Natasha. Regularly, you see her doling out things. She's renovated a school, she's given them solar power in her constituency. What's going on in other places? If what she's doing is replicated in 774 local governments, we shall see the difference. Being honest is not that difficult, but it's just that a lot of people who find themselves in public office are just unable to keep their fingers in their pockets. And when they do put their fingers in their pockets, it's to stuff what belongs to us. You know, so it's not the political witch hunting. If people are not guilty, if they do not have crime or charges to be brought against them, they will be allowed to go home.
I totally agree with you that whoever has done the time, crime should do the time. But the opposition or even members of the parties will say perhaps persons who are falling out, and this is across board, persons who are falling out of the party, the persons in power, were in the bad books of, or for whatever reason, they are not in the good books of whoever is in power, or the people in power. They're the ones that have been, witch hunted according to them. But there's another part I want you to speak to as we begin to progress with the program. And I have had a couple of interviews on this job. And one of the things I found out lately, not as though we didn't know or we didn't suspect. So this defection move is within the right of these governors to defect, even though we know that there is no ideological difference between APC, PCP, and the rest of them. Now, my colleagues and I, we did 2 interviews and with some persons from Kano. One was a spokesperson from the presidency, one was one of the agency leaders in Kano State, who alluded to the fact that, look, when you align with the center, you know that language of aligning with the center, there are certain things that come to you, making it look like economic intervention by the federal government is clearly, partisan in this sense. And we doubled down and said, it's obnoxious. If you look at the spirit of the Constitution, Section 16, you're a senior lawyer, learned sick. The Constitution says in Section 16(1), I think that should be 1B, the state shall, within the context of ideals and objectives for which provisions are made in this Constitution, control the national economy in such a manner as to secure the maximum welfare, freedom and happiness of every citizen on the basis of social justice and equality of status and opportunity. how do we manage the recklessness of the political class of being partisan in economic intervention? Because I can tell you, it looks like everybody kind of does this.
We cannot pretend not to know what's going on. We can't. The kind of politics we practice in our country, and unfortunately our constitution also allows it, is winner takes all. So when you sit at the center, or when you sit in government house, you are fully in charge. And in a manner of speaking, people come to you kowtowing with their pants asking for favors. But then again, those who are honest with whatever they receive from the federal allocation and what they're able to generate internally can do a lot to make the lives of the people better. But unfortunately, we find a situation also, and I think anyone who complains about people defecting so that they can have better access to the resources of the country are not wrong. They are not wrong. And so all of a sudden we have 31 governors aligning with the center. Well, then again, we are the people, we are the ones who must go to vote next year. We are the ones who must take a decision. But then again, when I was discussing this with a colleague yesterday, another senior advocate, and I said to him that people, particularly the young people who are the largest percentage of the population of our country, should form themselves into a vanguard where they can determine who they vote for. And he said to me, a lot of people are so pauperized that even if in their hearts they want to choose, they want to vote for a governor or a different president, 2,000 naira can make them change their minds. That is the conundrum that we have. It is such a pity, a great pity indeed. So if we talk about people at that level, and then those who are at the topmost level of the politics and the governance in our country, who want to align, first of all, they want to align with the center because then they don't want to prosecute it if they have anything, if they have soiled the fingers. They also want to have greater access. Well, what access? If we are distributing the access, the resources of the nation, like you just pointed out under Section 61, social justice and what have we, the truth is that I should be able to sit in government house wherever I am and be sure that whatever I'm entitled to, either by the distribution of that or the distribution of FACIM allocations, and get what is due to me. But whatever is due to you, when you get it, no matter how small or big it may be, whether you're a local government chairman or a governor, what do you do with it? We still find in states in Nigeria, even when governments in states have now begun to receive more than double or triple what they used to receive, still have young children sitting on the floor to receive education. It's not about what you get alone from the center. It's about what you do with what you have. And I'll just give you an example of a senator who's able to give to help people from what, well, maybe we call it constituency allowance or what have you. I don't know exactly where she gets all the money from. But I believe that if she's using it for the benefit of her own citizens and her constituency, let other people replicate it as well. So if you are shortchanged because you are not aligned to the center, whatever you get, let us see that you have done your best with it. That's what I think.
Difficult to not to agree with what you just adduced. So the funds like FAC or VAT distribution and all of the statutory distributions, I think everybody gets it because that one is protected by law. But perhaps there are special interventions that is to the discretion of the federal government in this particular case, that the federal government can choose to intervene as they will based on the urgency or the emergency or the necessity. So if we're able to prove that only APC governors or APC states are getting these interventions based on the facts as alleged because they are members or those parties or those governors belong to the APC, is there a legal intervention based on what I cited in Section 16(1)(b) of the Constitution?
Yes, and I like the your choice of words. If we are able to prove, nothing at all stops governors of states who feel shortchanged from going to courts to say, I'm pointing out to the courts that this government, that government, and this government of these states have received more than us. inequitably so. And let us as citizens also have a say. Look, we cannot continue to sit in our rooms or in our offices complaining about these things. We need to complain in the open, and there's no doubt in our minds. Look, we all know that these things do happen. People are favored because, look, let's leave the federal government alone for a moment. In the Senate, we've heard before that there's some senators who are regarded as high-ranking senators. What does that mean? High-ranking senators. And that means they have greater access to certain things that others do not have access to. These are senators who have been elected by citizens of this country based upon the different senatorial districts. So why should one senator from one senatorial district be considered high-ranking? Because he's been in the Senate for longer than me? So these are some of the things that we need to discuss. These are some of the things that we need to bring to the fore. We cannot continue to argue about these things in the corners. If we are not happy with what we are seeing, let us go to the courts. But then again, a lot of people will then tell you, well, when you go to the court, what's likely to be outcome? That's another discussion for another day. You know, but that is where you should go.
Yeah, we don't have a choice but to go to the court. But now they will tell you that here some weekend the rest are building houses for judges, and some are saying judges should reject those houses. There are so many. It's a conundrum. But we will not lose faith in our country or any of the sectors. We'll continue to have faith and hope that one day we're going to fix the country. But I must thank you, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Kayode Adelola. Thank you so much for coming on the program. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, Nigeria is what we discuss here every time, so we're not saying anybody has done anything, but there's a lot going on that you and I have to be part of the conversation to have all sectors of the economy, all sectors of the society and the nation work for all of us. Nigeria belongs to us all, all right? Thank you for watching. Thanks for your time and company. I'm Jeffrey Uzonga. You've been served on Lunchtime Politics. Bye-bye.